Hi, welcome to this Flutterflow Database Essential Course here on YouTube. If you have been building with Flutterflow or if you have been building with any no-code tool, you will understand that database is the most important factor when it comes to building your mobile application. If you do not set your database well, or if you do not have a clear understanding of database, there's a very high chance that your app will fail and your app will not be scalable. In this very short course, we're going to cover how to set up database in Flutterflow. You're going to understand data types. You're going to understand local states or app states. You're going to understand how to set up Firebase. And we're going to set up some very, very key database types. We're going to set up database like SaaS application. We're going to set up database for real estate, database for a to-do list, database for common applications that you basically use so you can have a grasp of what the Flutterflow database is all about. And also we're going to talk about Xano, why you should use Xano, the difference between Xano and Firebase, and also we're going to talk about Superbase. That's how we're going to go in this very short course. This course is part of my Flutterflow Mastery course. It's going to take you from 0 to pro if you intend to build with Flutterflow. It will help you turn any ideas that you have into a mobile application, into something that is worth using by your customers without even paying a dev. If you're ready, you can click on the link below this video to get started with becoming a pro in Flutterflow. Let's get started with our first lesson, learning about database. Welcome back. The MySQL database, it's not obsolete, but that's not what we get to use in Flutterflow. You know, MySQL database store things in tables, right? Store things in rows and columns, then have things we call unique key, primary key to enable you to locate unique files in those columns. If you're very good with Excel, you would see that Excel uses a relational database. Same thing with MySQL database. If you want to connect one table to another table, then you would have to find a unique key on both tables to be able to connect them together. But the database that comes directly with Flutterflow, it's a NoSQL database. It means non-relational database. That's what it means. Or you can say no SQL, or you can call it without SQL. So meaning without a structured query language. But you can call it anything you want to call it, NoSQL, non-relational database, or anything you want to call it. It doesn't change the fact that it is not actually the opposite of NoSQL. It's just that it's a schema-less database. That's what it is. I know this is a whole lot of grammar. It's a whole lot to sink in. I'm going to explain this to you one after the other. But first, I want to show you why Firebase is a good place to start. You know, Firebase. The name of the database in Firebase is called Firestore. Firebase is a cloud service. It's a cloud service owned by Google. You know, Google, the guys who own YouTube, who own Google My Business, Google Search, and the rest. So, Firebase itself, it's a platform as a service, is an infrastructure as a service, back end as a service. You can call it many names. It just enables you to fix all your back end without actually coding too many things, without actually worrying how to set up your infrastructure. That's what it does. And then they have this service that is called Cloud Firestore that you can use to store data, retrieve data anytime you like. So let me tell you some of the advantages of using Firestore. I know a lot of persons get to say, hey, I want to have my data somewhere else. I want to have it somewhere else. But really, Firestore is a very, very good option if you ask me. You want to think of it. It's very, very flexible. Very flexible, because in this Firestore, documents are organized into collections. These allow you to have multiple documents inside the same collection. You can have up to 1,000 documents inside the same collection, and these collections don't have to be of the same structure. Don't worry, I'm saying so many things right now that you've not had before, but just give it time. It's going to sink in as I begin to explain it to you. Number two is that you can retrieve data from this database as fast as possible. Yeah, that's something. It is very, very fast for you to retrieve data directly from a database, from a Firestore database. I've done this experiment several times. Whenever you change something in your database, your user change something, it doesn't take, it changes in your database at the speed of light, as fast as possible. When I mean fast, I mean really, really fast. That means your data is real time. It helps you to synchronize data. Firestore is really real-time. It helps you to synchronize data. As your data is changing, the update is going on. As your data is changing, the update is going on. And one thing about Firestore is that it doesn't just update one part of your data. Every other connected database, it updates everything at the same time, which makes it super fast when you want to query large data, when you want to query large resources in your mobile application. And number four now, you can run things offline. That's exciting, right? When you're building an app for users that lives in places with low connectivity, low connectivity, or probably there's no data at that time, Firebase can store the data on the phone first. Right? Can store the data on the phone first, and then when there is connectivity, upload it by itself to the cloud Firestore. That makes it super cool. This means that you can build applications for places with low connectivity. So anytime there is a little bit of connectivity, it transfers everything to the data store. Every time there's a connectivity, it moves everything to your cloud storage, and that just really makes sense. And lastly, this is a question I get asked a lot. Is Firestore scalable? Yes, it is very, very, very scalable. Is Firestore scalable? Yes, it is very scalable. It is very consistent in storage. It is very strong. It has a multi-region. You can replicate your data in multiple regions, and nothing gets happen to those data. And you can scale as fast as possible, as large as possible. This thing was built by the giant called Google. Yeah, it's maintained, it's owned by Google. So it's not just because it's owned by Google, but it's really scalable and very cool. And another thing I'm going to add is, one reason why I think Firebase is also cool is that it is very affordable. Really. You talk about scaling a lot. Lots of people who ask me talk about scaling over and over again. But the thing is that you can easily scale with Firebase. It is very, very affordable, especially if you're trying to, bring your idea to life at a very, very low budget. You can do so with Flutterflow, with a Firebase. Most of the time, if you have an application with like 50,000 downloads and you have like 5% daily active users, do you know that Firebase will barely charge you up to $25 a month for using those databases? Barely. This is something that you cannot compare with a platform like Xano that will charge you a whole lot of money. It doesn't matter if you're scaling or you're not scaling, if you have users or you don't have users. Something like Firebase, a cloud store like Firebase, it's a pay as you go. If your users are not using it, you don't pay anything. If they're using it, then you have to pay. Do you understand, right? It's a very, very good option if you ask me. So that's it for that. Then I'm gonna come back again. I just gave you some advantages. I'm gonna come back again and explain what is a NoSQL database, what it means. I said a couple of things, but I just went deep into Firestore. I'm gonna come back and tell you about NoSQL database in more details. I'll see you in the next lesson. When you're dealing with NoSQL database, there are a couple of things you should know. Number one, you have to understand there's something called a collection. There's something called a collection. A collection is simply a set of documents. That's what a collection is. A collection is what? Simply a set of documents. That's why when you come to your your database section of your app, it's asking you create a collection. And the first thing it asks you is, why not create a name for this collection? The first collection I always create in my application is always the user collection, because without the user collection, you almost cannot do anything in your database. So I'm going to go ahead and create the user collection right there. I'm going to click on create, and it says it looks like you're trying to create the user collection. I would say no thanks. I'm going to start from scratch. So you can see this is a collection itself, which is called the user collection. And inside this user collection, we can add a whole lot more documents. We can add documents, we can add a whole lot of documents. A document just contains feeds. That's what the document contains. It just contains, it's a record that contains a whole lot of feeds. That's what it does. A document just contains a whole lot of feeds. For example, this is the user. This is a user. This is a user collection, and we just add all of this to it. When we add all these feeds to it, it becomes a document. So we say for us to call it the user document. And each of this user document, they have something unique. And what's unique about it is that they have unique keys. The unique keys here is called user reference. So if I want to connect this document to another document, I simply just create a user reference between both documents. Say for example, I'm going to create another document and I'm just going to call it records. I'm going to call it record. I'm going to start from scratch. So we have the user document and we have the record document. So how would you know if a record belongs to a user, and how would you know if a user created a record, right? How would you know if I am the one who created a record? Keeping application, how do you know that I created a record, and how do you know that this record belongs to a user? How would you do that? You will do that by creating a reference between the user and the record. I hope you understand. So you do that by creating a reference between the user and the record. I'm going to show you how to do that in a few minutes. And also, we have something called feeds. Feeds contain value. They can contain different type of unique value that you can use inside your application. Remember, when you were in school, in junior high school or in primary school, depending on where you live, you would hear your teacher called alphabets. You would hear your teacher called names of animals. You would hear your teacher called numbers. You would hear your teacher called yes or no value. You would hear your teacher called points like 5.1. You would hear your teacher say 1. Those are different type of feeds. So when you're just replicating your life here, your mathematical life, you're bringing it here in feeds with it. So the most basic feed that you create in your database. The first thing you would do, you would say maybe name or probably username. So there are a couple of ways you want to do your naming convention. You either want to use an underscore, or you want to use a camel case. So this what I just used right now is an underscore. So you can see I said user underscore name, or you can basically use a camel case like this, user capital N name. So the reason why it's called a camel case is because you've seen the back of a camel, right? It's like this. So it just goes like this. So you can see the way it is right now. The user is low, then we use a capital N and that goes up. Then it comes down, then we use a capital X and that goes up, and then it comes down. So the first thing we'll do, we'll say username, and we'll choose a data type. The name, these are all different type of data type, but you are not limited to this type of data type. You're not limited, so we can use integer, double, string. So I'm going to explain all this one after the other as we go forward in this course. In the next lesson, I'm going to explain all this. I'm going to keep all the lessons as short as possible so that you can, sink it in and relax a little bit. No more long lessons. Okay. So these are basically the two things that you need to know. You need to know that there's something called a collection. So you've created a collection now, and there's something called a document, which is the user document, the record document, and then there is something also called feeds. So you have feeds like this. You have the different type of feed: Boolean, color, image, video, audio, different type of feeds. These are not restricted, but it's just basically what is available on Flutterflow as at this moment. So that's it. Just taught you about NoSQL database, why you should use NoSQL database, and why it works and how it works. So I'll see you in the next lesson, and we'll talk about data type. Yeah, that's what we'll talk about in the next lesson. I'll see you there. Welcome back. You must be seeing this record if you're following me video by video. You must be seeing this record here. Firebase Android configuration file has been uploaded. Tab has not been uploaded. Tap to fix it. Don't worry, we're going to explain that in a few minutes. But there's something that I think I missed that I didn't explain to you in the last lesson, and that was, what's the meaning of a document? I'm not sure if you got that right. I think I just said that in person. I'm going to say it again so you understand it, so that when you say transfer document from one page to another, you basically understand what Firebase or what Flutterflow is talking about. So first, when we click on this plus sign, what we're asked to create is a collection. So we'll say collection of groups. I'm just going to call these groups. Yes. And then when we begin to say start from scratch, you begin to add all this. What we're adding feeds. We're adding feeds like group name. Yeah, we're adding feeds. That's what we're adding, group name. And then when our users begin to add data into this collection, it will then be called a document. Do you understand? Say, for example, like when you want to sign up for Facebook or Instagram, you're asked to input your name, your passwords. Those are documents you're creating. As you begin to enter data into that feed, what you're doing is that you're creating a document. Okay. It's not time to go into a table, but I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you this via a table. So you can see, just imagine this is an Airtable database, yeah, and this is called a collection, right? This is called a collection. And in this collection, you have this. You have the title, the no-code to category, images, and the rest. And then what you're seeing here is that each of this data that you have here, each of these data, welcome to a bubble, each of these data that you have here, each of them, it's called a document. So you have document 1, document 2, document 3, document 4, and so on. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. I hope you get it now. So let's go into data type. So these are the data types that comes directly with Flutterflow. You can create your own data type, which is pretty straightforward. So I'm going to start. So for my username, remember we're using the comma case. You can also use the underscore, it's fine, but I'm just going to use the comma case. And we're going to say string. And we're going to click here and say check. So the reason why we're saying string is that a string is a set of numbers and alphabets. That's what a string is. So a string can accept alphabets, can accept numbers, can accept anything you put into it. Just think of it like a string means you writing. It's just a very cool data type. Just a cool data type that accepts anything. A string can accept a phone number, can accept a name, can accept a number, can accept punctuations, anything you want to put in there. When you're creating your Facebook post or when you're creating your Twitter post, what you're actually doing, you're using a string. You're writing into a string data type. That's what you're doing. That's why it's able to accept anything you put into it. Emojis, anything you put into it. When you're chatting, your WhatsApp message, when you're chatting with somebody, you will realize that you can send the person emojis, you can send the person images, you can send you can send the person links, you can send the person phone number, you can send the person text, anything. It just takes it. That's what a string is used for. And then there are other data type. So I'm going to go here, username, then age. Age is usually an integer. So you can be 2.5. So age is a number, integer is a number without a point, with no decimal places. So you can't have somebody be 22.5 age. You can't really have that. You can only say I am 21, I am 22, I am 23, 24, 25, but you can't be 22.1, 22.3. So when you're doing numbers with no decimal place, you can use integer. For example, you can also use integer for things like the day I finished school, the month of the year, the day of the year. You can use it for so many things. Maybe you're creating a record keeping application and you want to think of the income. You can actually do that if you want to. Or you want to count. Yeah, you want to count how many times I logged in into an application. Then you want to use an integer. That's what you want to do. And then there is another data type. So I'm going to say amount. So I think we missed it here. Take away this age so we can stick with our camel case. Age, data type is integer. Then I want to say amount, saved. So I'm imagining this is a fintech application. So for the amount saved, I'm going to say double because a person could save 200,000 naira. So I'm in Nigeria, I'm using naira. That's naira is the currency we use here. 200,000 naira, 50 kobo. So kobo is like the cent in America, is like sterling in England, if that's where you live, depending on your country. So kobo is a lower denomination. So a person could say, I have saved $2,000, 50 cents. So that's a double. So you want to put a point. So it's going to be 2,000.50 cents. That's what it's going to be. So it's going to be 2,000.50. So because that's a double, so if it has a point in it, it has a double. So it's good for saving things like money, financial records, because there's bound to be lower denominations. And for you to recognize lower denominations, you need to have points in it. So we're good. And the next type of data type is so something like accept terms. So you know, like in when you're signing up for any platform, they give you a checkbox and they ask you to accept terms and conditions. That's a yes or a no. So if you've accepted terms and conditions, something happens. If you've not accepted terms and conditions, something else happens. So that's when you want to use a data type called a boolean. A boolean is a yes or no. Are you going to school? No. Are you not going to school? Yes. Are you black? Yes. Are you not black? No. So it's just a type of data that requires a yes, no answer, nothing else. So anytime you want to give your user something that requires a yes, no answer, you use a boolean. And this works in your settings a lot. You want to make a user opt in into push notifications. You want to say, okay. You want to ask the user, if they want push notification. You want the user to accept terms and conditions. We said that before. You want to ask them. You want the user to accept an advertisement. You want to know. You want to ask them. You want to confirm if the user has made payment or not. It's going to be a boolean. So for example, if I'm using your application and I make payment, you want to say yes. When I finish making payment, you want to change that paid is paid to yes. But if I've not made payment, you want to say it's paid no. You get it right? So we'll check it. And there's another data type called color. So this is not the most important thing you want to do. This is something that you seldomly use, the color data type. So maybe you're saying house color, or maybe you're giving the users definite color scheme. Yeah, you're giving users a definite color scheme, or you're giving users like a theme color for their own. You're personalizing the application. You're giving them a theme color, right? For example, if you go on Twitter, you will see Twitter have 3 different colors. It has the light, it has the dark, and it has something in between. So that color is actually saved to the user profile. If I choose a color, it updates the color of my profile and show me that type of color scheme. So that's not really you're not going to be using it a lot, except you're somebody who's giving into app aesthetics. So image, like it says, image contains files. Image contain links, that's what it contains. It's also a string. So image part is a string, but it just contains image. It calls an image from your database and display it to the user. Same thing, calls the video from your database and display it to the user. Same thing, the audio, and then we have the document reference. So for example, if a user if a user is creating maybe records, maybe order in an e-commerce store, maybe you're just trying to keep record of for a user. Maybe you're doing all this stuff, yeah? You want to use the document reference to link both of them. So if as a user in your own application, what I'm doing mostly is creating record of animal, and you want to count how many records I've created, you can simply say that every time I create a record, I need you to add that reference to the user. Every time I create a record, I need you to add that reference to the user so that it will keep counting, right? It will be a link to the record itself. You might not understand this, but when we go, I'm going to explain it in a way that you will definitely get it. See, there are two types of ways you want to use document reference. Two types. Number one, this is the record type. So I'm going to say name of record. The data type. If you say string, then you guessed it right. Yes. Then I'm going to say owner. I'm going to say the owner of the record. And this time is going to be a document reference. You see? So I'm looking for the owner of the record. And what's the reference type? I'm going to reference the user database. I'm going to say user, and I'm going to say yes. You understand, right? A user can create a record, and a record belongs to a user. So another thing that you can do to make it both ways, even though it's not very necessary, you could say list of records. Like this, list of records, give it a document reference. You can give it a document reference, or you can give it an ID if you want to. You can give it a string or a document reference. It's fine. And then you would say my list of records. I'm going to say records, and I'm going to turn this into a list. The reason is because one record will belong to a user, and the user can have many records. You can see different types of relationship. We have the one-to-one relationship, we have the many-to-many relationship, and then we have the one-to-many relationship. So for the record, a record belongs to one user, but for the user himself, he himself can have many records, right? He himself can have many records, but he's still a single user. So that's the reason why you say list here. It's just like when you're building an e-commerce store. For an e-commerce store, a user can have many orders. Lots of other item, yeah, but that other item, each other item belongs to the user. A cart can have many other items, but each other item belongs to a single cart. Do you understand? So we're going to say yes, check it. So that's it. That's how you create records, documents, and collections in your database application. So this is if you're on the paid plan. If you're on the pro plan, this works, but if you're not on the pro plan, it doesn't work. If you want to experience this, go ahead and sign up for the free trial, 15-day free trial, and it's going to work for you very well. Understand? So next, when you come back, I'm going to show you how to create your own custom data type, and it works very, very well. I'll see you in the next lesson. Hi, welcome back. I'm so excited that you're still here, and I'm so grateful that you are. I'm glad that you're learning about database. Database is the key to every part of your application. If your database is messed up, trust me, your app is going to be messed up. So I would want you to listen keenly as we understand about database. So let's get started with this. We're going to talk about the custom data type. You might be asking yourself, I have this data type already over here, which is my user record and my groups, and I can create everything I want to create here. But there's sometimes where you want to create complex data type. You want to create more data type, or you want to call it one type of data type. I'm using data type a lot, right? You want to group the fields together. You want to group all these fields and call it a data type. That's what you want to do sometimes. So I'm going to create a data type. This is an easy one. I'm going to call it address. So this is an easy type of data type. But one thing that you'll notice is that you still have all the type of data over here. You still have the integer, the double, the string, the boolean, the color over here. And you might ask yourself, why on earth do I have to do this over again? I'll show you why you have to. Why it's very important for you to be able to create your own custom data type yourself. So let's go. The first field here is going to be country. So just watch. and the country is going to be a string, right? The next is going to be the state. If you are in Nigeria, we have country, we have state, and then we have local government. That's what we have. So it's broken into, the government here is broken into three: state, we have the state, the country itself, the state government, and the local government. So we have these three, and then you would have your home address, or area council. Yeah, the data type is going to be string again, and then you would have the house number, and the data type is going to be an integer. Yeah, the data type is going to be an integer, and then you then have the latitude, latitude and longitude. So long. Latitude and longitude. This is super cool if you want to know the exact location of your user. So you want to tailor the user experience based on the location of the person. It will work if you have a directory, if you're operating a directory, if you're operating maybe a delivery application, anything that just requires you to know the location of your application. It just works very well. So we have the latitude and longitude, and we would say create. So you can see how many feet do you have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 feet. That's what you have here. Okay, then let's go. We can also say is registered. So if this address is registered, yes or no, and we can call this a boolean. So we now have 7. So let's go back to our, let's add another data, another field again, and this is going to be card details. So this is going to be card details, and on this card details, I'm going to say the first thing is going to be the card number, and I'm going to call this an integer. Card numbers are normally integers. They're integers, yeah, mostly. So I'm going to call this, and then the next is the CVC, the anomaly, integer. Then I'm going to call it the ESP, expiry date. So this could be a date. This could be a date, but not. But you can call it an integer. So I'm not sure. Okay. ESP month. So that's going to be an expiry month, and that's going to be an integer, and that's going to be ESP year, expiry year, and that's also going to be an integer. And then we'll have the card type, and that's going to be a string. And then we'll have the boolean that says if the card is expired, yes or no. So you see, this is a lot of feed. This is a whole lot of feed. And we can also say last used. So the last time the person used this card on our application, and that's going to be a date and a time. Then let's go back to our database. So now this is where we did this, the data type, and then let's go back to our database. And so a user will have an address. So here we will say address, and guess what we're going to do? We'll pick our data type, and data type we'll have here is going to be our address. So this means that we have access to all the feeds here. All the feeds here. We can create this in a form. Everything for the user. The user can add all of this and populate it once as a single address. And here we can say card. We can say card, and then this is going to be a card detail. This is going to be like the card. This is going to be a list, and this can be all the cards. Data type. This can be a card details. So the reason why it's a list of card details is just because a user can have more than one cards. That's the reason why it's a list of card. A user can have more than one cards, and it just makes sense. But if I were you, I'm not going to create the card here. I'm going to create it in another feed that a user cannot, that has restrictions. So I'm going to create it in a different feed entirely and create a relationship, like a different collection entirely. Maybe a collection called cards. Yeah. And I'm going to create a relationship with the user. So that's because it's very, very sensitive. We're going to talk about security later in the next lesson because it's very, very sensitive. So I wouldn't create that here. But I just wanted you to see that you can actually bring that same card data type that you just created, which is the data type, call it card, and say check. So what you're doing is that you're just exposed to all the feeds. Every one single feed that you have there, you are exposed to it. You can actually use all of it as your own custom data type, and you can create more. And one thing that I love about this data type is that you can use it everywhere. You can use it all over your application, not just on the database, but all over the application. You can keep using it as you go. So that's it. That's the card. Next, I'm going to show you about, I want to tell you about local state. Yes, I want to tell you about local state. It's straight in line with the database. I'm going to show you about local state, how it works, how to use it, when to use it in your application. And after that, when we get started, we'll go back to Firebase, this part of it all the way, and I'll show you how to do amazing things right there. I'll see you in the next lesson. Hi, welcome back. Before we go into local state, I want to show you a couple of things about subcollections. When you should use the subcollections and why subcollections are important. I'm going back to the database itself. Subcollections are, you create subcollections just like the way you created the record, the group, and the card. It's basically relationship. It's just basically a relationship. I told you about the card, right? I could delete this, right? Delete this and create it as a sub-collection to the user. The reason is because if this particular relationship is just one step upwards, no other person needs to access this collection except one person, which is the user. Then I can just create it as a sub-collection of that person, which is the user. For example, okay, I'm going to do this, create as a card. I'm going to call card. I'm going to say a sub-collection. I'm going to say yes. It's going to ask me sub-collection of who? The user. So what this means is that the only way I can access this card collection is if I go through the user. Do you understand? If I go through the user, without the user, I won't be able to access this card collection. This is normally good for security. It is good for security. So I'm going to advise you, if you want to create sub-collection for things that are secure, things that you don't want people to get into on time. And the funny thing is that it has all the data type and all the feeds. You can set those data type, you can do everything you want to do, but it will be unaccessible. You can't just put in data into a sub-collection yourself. Somebody has to put it. It has to belong to the collection that is above it. So this is the collection that is above it, which is the primary collection. This particular sub-collection cannot receive data without referencing the primary collection, without referencing the user. So it's only a user that can create a card. So let's do something. Let's do something else. Let's add a collection called the post. So this is going to be a good way to illustrate this. And then we have comments, right? So this is going to be a sub collection of the post. So you can see now we have posts and we have comments. So that means a comment automatically belongs to a post. So when you want to display all the comments in a post, you just query the sub collection only and you don't want to bother about anything. You query the sub collection only and you don't have to bother about anything at all. Do you understand? It just saves you from making too many queries to your database. For example, if I had created the comment 2 here like this as a collection, if I want to link it up with the post, I will have to first create a relationship. I will create a document reference. I will create a document reference with the post, and I'll just call this post. So the reason for this is to be able to tell which post have the comment and which comment belong to a post. You understand? But if I create as a sub-collection, I don't have to create a relationship. Firebase or Flutterflow create the relationship for me automatically. It automatically knows that if I make any comment, it must belong to the post. Do you understand? This can also work when you're dealing with a team. It can also work when you're dealing with a team. You could say that every company will have a team. That's a sub-collection. And every team will have a task. So every task belongs to a team, and every task belongs to a team. So a task cannot be created without a team. Do you understand? A task cannot be created without a team. So this just saves you. It stops you from making too many queries in your database. So anything that have a direct relationship, you just want to call it a sub-collection. If it has it directly, don't worry. Everything you can do for a collection, you can also do it in a sub-collection. You can query it if you want to. You can save data to it if you want to. You can update it if you want to. But the only caveat there is that there must be a reference to the primary collection. So like here, there must be a reference to the post, and here there must be a reference to the user before you can create a card. There must be a reference to this post before you can create a comment. So that's what basically a sub-collection is for. I hope you get it now. You get it, right? If you don't get it, you would have to, go back again, and watch this tutorial all over again if you don't get it. So thank you very much for watching this. When we come back, we'll talk about local state. I know we want to talk about local state before, but when we come back, we'll talk about local state. I'll see you in the next lesson. Meanwhile, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you. Hi, welcome back. Have you ever imagined why your phone have a memory card? It's to store things. That's the reason why your phone have a memory card. Have you ever tried to install Chrome on your phone and then delete it? If you're an Android user like me, a typical Chrome application might be, say, between 50 to 100 megabyte. It's been a long time since I did that. Between 50 to 100 megabyte. But when you want to delete it, you would delete as much as 500 megabytes from your phone. It keeps, every time you open your Chrome, it is storing data. Every time you open your phone, it is storing data. And that data is not being stored in the cloud. It is actually being stored in your phone, which is a local state. That's what it's been stored on. So the thing, local state, it's a way for you to keep data on your user's phone so you don't have to query it back. It's a way for you to keep data on your user's phone, save it on your user's phone, so you don't have to query it back when you need it. The reason why you should use a local state, because it is very, very fast. Very fast. It is so fast for you to retrieve. It is way faster than reaching out to the cloud, worrying about data, worrying about network. You don't have to worry about anything because the local state is on the user's phone. You don't have to worry about anything. It is there. Whenever you need it, you get it. So if you want to open a local state, you will click here, click on this, you would see app state. So it's called app state. You can call it local state, anything you want to call it, but it's just called a state. And there are two types of state. Yeah, there are two types of state. We have the persistent state and the non-persistent state. The persistent state, you can store it on the user's local device. So you can always retrieve it and go bring it anytime you want to. Do you know the funny thing? You can store even a song on the user's device. Something as large as a song. You can store it on the user's device. You can store phone numbers. You can store data points. You can store almost anything. But I'm not saying you should go ahead and store things that are too large. Your users might notice, but though they hardly notice though, but you can store lots of things in your user's device. Yeah. So when you make the state persistent, it means it stays in the device irrespective of if the users close their phone. If they close their phone, they open it back, it's still going to be there. But when it's non-persistent, if perhaps the user closed their device, your app state is gone. So it will only stay when there's a new section. It will only come when there's a new section. Once the user closes that particular section, your app state is gone and gone forever. So how do you create a state? Just add a variable. You add a variable, call it a name. So I'm going to call this maybe nickname. There's nothing on my mind right now. I'm going to call it a nickname. And then I'm going to choose string. So every time a user comes into this application, I can assign the user a unique name, like a random name. You know, maybe it's a random chart. I can assign the user a random name, but I will have to click this persistent if I want to store it on the user's phone. If I don't want to store it on the user's phone, I will click non-persistent. If I want to store it on the phone, I will click persistent. So this is also good if you're having a user fill something. If you're using your phone in a place where there has hardly network, but there's not so much network. So instead of users to fill a form, right? Fill a form and send it to the cloud. You could fill that form, put it in your local state, and wait for network. So you just be checking if there's network. So if there's network, you would upload it to the cloud store. If there's no network, you leave it there until there is network. So you can see how it works, right? And also, you can actually store your user's history on their phone. You can store your users' history on their phone, the way they use your application. You can store data points. You can store a whole lot of things on their phone. If it's going to help you, to make their user experience a whole lot better. So I'm going to say create. And so you can say secure persistent feed. So it's just going to hash it. So when I mean secure, one question that will come to your mind is, what if somebody hacks the phone? What's going to happen to those states? What if somebody hacks the phone? So when you click on this secure persistent feed, it hashes everything. It makes sure that it's so difficult for anybody to, just take the phone and go use those states for whatever they want to use it for. And there's something exciting also. When I click on the add state, I can click on the data type, and my state can also be my address. So I could say sample, I could say current address. So you can see this is just a data type. So this current address is a data type, and you can see all those feeds were created, right? Countries, states, local government, home, phone number, latitude and longitude. So if I click on this, it's going to be, I could just pick my home right now. Let me pick my home right now. Benin City, this is where I'm at right now. So I'm going to say Benin City, Nigeria. See, this is the latitude, this is the coordinate to my house, to my city right now. So if you're coming to my city, you can use this coordinate, pop it right there. You can use this coordinate to come to my city. And when I save this data, it just works. So when I click here, you can see I have the coordinates and it's right there. So that's how you basically use an app state. So we'll use it a whole lot while we're building sample applications in the future. And I'm going to show you some other places where you can create local state too. For example, on this page itself, if you click on the top page itself, you can create a state. You can click here, you can say add a local state variable. Look at it. Add a local state variable on this page itself. Yeah. Cancel. On this widget itself, container, you can add a state, right? On this container, yeah, can't you? Okay. Okay, no. So you can add a state to a page. You can add a state to a page. You can add it to a widget. Yeah, it's very possible to add a state to a widget. So if I click on this widget we created a while ago, yeah, this one, we can add a local state to this particular widget. So we can have an app state, we can have a page state, and we can have a widget state. So I'm speaking too many types right now. So when I mean page state, I mean a state that lives on a page alone, and then we can have a component state like this one here, add. This one just lives on this component alone. So if this component is not there, you can access this state. And then we have an app state. So it's the app state. This is the one you create here. This is one you create here and it's accessible all over the application. So for the if you need a state that is accessible all over the application, irrespective of where you are, you create an app state. But if you just want a state that is accessible in the page itself, you create a page state. But if you need something that is accessible on the component side of things, you create a component state. That is a lot to think in. Give yourself time, go grab a cup of coffee, watch the video again, and make sure that it does sink in. Go watch that. When you come back, we'll link this data, this stuff that we just created. They are not live. That's why you're getting this warning over here. It is not live. You can't do anything with it right now. You can't store anything in there because these are just demo. These are just states inside of Flutterflow itself. That's what it is. This is just a state inside of Flutterflow itself. It is just in the, you could almost say that this is in my Flutterflow account or this is in my PC, but it's not on my PC. If I close and come back here, I'll still say it. But you could almost say that this is an app state for me. This user, the card, the records I just created, they are not in any database or whatsoever. So when you come back, I'm going to show you how to create your own Firestore database, and we'll get started from there. Thank you. I'll see you in the next lesson. Now it's time for us to set up Firebase. That's what we're going to be using right now as our choice storage. But as we go, I'm going to introduce you to Superbase, and I'm going to introduce you to Xano. But I really don't want to overwhelm you right now. I want us to stick with Firebase first, and then when we're good, we can come back to the others. So the first thing to do is to add a new project. So how do you even get here in the first place? To get here, just go to firebase.google.com. Firebase.google.com, and you're going to land here. Don't worry, you don't need to create a Firebase account because once you have a Google account, you already have a Firebase account. So click on Go to Console over here. And when you click on Go to Console, if you are a previous user, you would see all your projects. Yeah, you would see all your projects. But if you are a new user, you would see you wouldn't see any project over here. So the first thing to do is to click on Add a Project. And when you add a project, you give the project a name, right? So we're going to call this Database Project. I'm 3 projects away from reaching my limit. Call this Database Project, and I would say Continue. And here it's going to ask you if you want to add a data. If you want to add Google Analytics, just say yes. Gonna go Continue. Select a Google Analytics account. You say create new. I have tons of them already. Say create new. What's it going to be called? Database FF. So that's just top of my head right now. And where's the analytics location going to be? Choose your own country. Where exactly you're launching the product. If you're launching the product in the United States, choose United States. So because this is where I live and kind of like my country, so I love my country. So I'm going to say Nigeria, and I'm going to accept terms and conditions. Yeah, I'm going to say create project. So it's going to take you only a GP, say 30 seconds or less, depending on your internet speed to create the project for you. It's going to create the project, it's going to create your analytic account, it's going to create every account you need in order for you to access your Flutterflow project. Yeah, in order for you to store data on your Firebase, not your Flutterflow project, store data on your Firebase. So now you see your new project is ready, click on continue. Yeah, you click on continue, and then this is the page that you get to. And here, when you get started, it leaves you on the Spark plan, which is the upgrade. So it tells you to upgrade. I would definitely advise you to upgrade to the Blaze plan, because without the Blaze plan, you won't be able to do things like custom functions and a whole lot more. Don't worry, you're not going to be charged. And also, when you upgrade to the Blaze plan, you can always tell Google how much you want to leave in your account. If you might set a payment threshold of like $3, $1, $2, it doesn't matter. You just set a payment threshold and say if it gets to $3, if you get $3, don't charge me. Don't charge me. Leave me alone. Just send me a message and alert me whenever I hit my threshold. So you could set a threshold and you're not going to waste money. So this is pretty tough. Where are you going to get to from here? So the first thing you want to do is to click on this icon, the settings icon, click on users and permissions. So now this is me, Paul Okodua, and I am the owner of this. So I'm going to say add a member. So you have to figure out a way to invite Flutterflow into your project, so that it can make changes on your behalf. So I'm going to paste this. I'm going to say the email address is going to be firebase@flutterflow.io. That's the email address. And the role is going to be editor, not the owner. Not the owner. The role is going to be editor. I'm going to say done. I'm going to say add member. Yeah, so that's the first thing. And then I would say advanced permission settings. So just click on this. Don't care what it is. Don't even bother. After all, it's no code. Don't bother about what it is. Just click on advanced permission settings. Now, on what you want to do, you want to give Flutterflow more permissions. Yeah, so click on this icon, edit, then click on add another role. And the first role you would add is account service user. That's the first row you add. Account service user, let's find it. Service account user, Service account user. That's the word. Let's go find it. Yeah, this one. Then another row you would add is cloud functions admin. That's it, this one. So once you add it, say save changes, and that's all you have to do. So you can see that Firebase now have a whole lot of role. But once you're done with this, you think you don't want to use Firebase again, you want to take your project somewhere else, you'd have to come back here, tick this, and delete the person. Delete this role, delete this user from your database. Super important. So now you're done with that, go ahead and close, and you can refresh if you want to. You can just switch back, switch forward. You can see editor plus 2 other rows. That's very important. So the next thing you do is click on build and click on Firestore database. So say create database. And it's going to ask you which mode do you want to start with. I would normally tell you to start with the test mode. It lasts for 30 days. You can increase it if you want to a long time, but it's just 30 days. That's the default. So I'm going to say next. I'm going to choose. So where do you want it to be? I'm just going to choose Europe. Europe is more closer. I'm going to say enable. Enable, and we'll wait. So now your database is ready. So this, you can see this particular database side of things is just a fancy way of representing what you have here, right? You can still create your own collection, add a collection ID, and say next. You can still create your own collection here. Like I'm gonna say Paul, no code, create a nest, then add the feed. So you can see all the feeds you have here: number, map, array, new. So array is almost like it's same thing with the list. Yeah, array is same thing with the list, like so. So you can create a whole lot here if you want to. Same thing. So now that you're good with that, the next thing we'll do, we click on build and we click on storage. So now we'll say get started. The same way we did that, click on the test mode, say next, say done. So this is just for you to be able to store things like images, video, here audio, and all those stuff. That's the reason why you're creating storage. So these are the 2 things that you have to create. For all other things like analytics, it's going to just work out fine just like that. So we just wait. So now we have our storage. You can upload your files now. So you can even use this as your Google storage, You can use this as very similar to your Google Drive, but it's not as organized. So you can add so many things like your videos, your images. Even if you're not developing on Firebase, you can come add all of them here, and you'll be able to, grab the link and access them. You also have this real-time database. You don't have to bother about this. You just chill. I think we have what we need. We have the Firestore, and then we have the storage, and these are the only thing that we need right now. And as your app grow bigger, you can always come here to see what machine learning is all about. What machine learning is all about. You can come here, take some to watch this video and see what it's all about. So next thing you want to do is to click on this screen, and click on project settings. Click on project settings and environmental type. Don't worry. There's something else to check out. Users and permissions. Okay, I think we're good there. We need to go look for authentication right here. Authentication. So this will just enable users to sign in into the application. Without authentication, users will not be able to sign in into the application at all. We're going to cover this in detail in the next lesson, so I think I should give you time to go sort out the Firebase, add Firebase at Flutterflow IO to the editor. Go set it up like this. When you're done, you join me in the next lesson where we talk about authentication. I really don't want to make it so long. I want to make the lesson bit by bit so you get to enjoy it and you get to understand it a whole lot. I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you. For every application that you're creating, you need a way for users to log in into the application. If your users cannot log in, there is no way they will be able to use your app. And that's the reason for authentication. There are several ways you could authenticate your app. You could use email, you could use Gmail, you could even use passwordless login if you want to. But it all starts from, first of all, setting up your authentication on Firebase before you go back to your Flutterflow application to set things up a lot more. So you go to this tab called Authentication. You click on Get Started, and then you have to wait for a few minutes for things to work, and then you choose your authentication provider. You can see it has a whole lot. There is email, there is Google, there is Facebook, Play Games, there is phone, there is Game Center, Apple, GitHub, and a whole lot. Even anonymous login, it's even provided. So for me, I always get it started up with my email and my password, which is something that everybody is used to. The reason is because I want to get things out there as fast as possible. Signing up with Google, it's pretty straightforward, but it still requires you to do a whole lot of work too. But I would say go ahead with email, password, or with phone. Just use one of these two, email, password, or with phone, so that you're able to set things up as fast as possible. So once you click on email, you're able to say enable. Then there is this one that says passwordless sign in. You can also enable it if you want to, but it doesn't matter. You can just go ahead and say sign. You can just go ahead and say save. So once you say save, it's enabled. You see the status change to enabled, which is cool. And also you can go ahead and add another one like Gmail if you want to, but we'll just stick with the email and password for now. So once you're done with that, you would go back to your Flutterflow account, click on settings, click on Firebase, and this is what you want to do. You want to generate your config file, and to do this, I would go here, come back here, and just copy our project name. So you can see it here in the URL. That's where you find the project name. Copy. Just Ctrl+C it and come back here to your dashboard and put in the ID. Then say connect. Once you say connect, you will see this part where it says not deployed. But first, before you deploy it, go ahead and say also generate config files. Generate config file. Now it's giving you an instruction telling you not to close it until the config file is done generating. So now it's done. You don't have to do anything more. You can go ahead and say deploy. Click yes. Now it's been deployed. Let's go back to our database, click on our settings right here and say deploy. So you remember the database we set up. If we come back here, we click on our Firebase storage. If we click on our Firebase storage, right here, you can see there's no collection because like I told you before now, it is almost like you're creating an app state in your Flutterflow account, but there's nothing here. So let's deploy it. Deploy now. Okay. So deploy says yes. Let's go back here, do a refresh. We're still not seeing anything. The reason why you're not seeing anything because nobody is logged in or nobody is signed into the application. So we have to create a way for someone to put in data here and you'll be able to see that collection right here in your Firestore. And there's one more thing that you have to do to make sure authentication works. Click on the setting, say authentication, enable authentication, and it's going to ask you what do you want to enable it. We'll say Firebase. And then we have to then choose the page we want to use as the initial page. So I'm going to choose any of this page, say this is the page, and my login page, I'm going to choose the home page, and that's basically all I want to do. Then we'll come back here, go back to your Firebase account, and just regenerate config file all over again. Say generate config file. Yeah, so once we generate config file, we go back to our database, we deploy again. So it's saying not deployed, there's an error. Okay, yeah, it says your Firebase account you must be on the Bliss plan for you to be able to deploy cloud functions. So the reason why it's not deploying here is because of cloud functions. But I'm pretty sure if you have no cloud function in your custom function in your files in your app, definitely it's going to work. I think the custom function it's over here. So I think I'm just going to delete this page. Custom function. Yeah, it's somewhere around here. I think I created a custom function a while ago, and that's the reason why I'm facing this issue. But it should work without any issue or whatsoever for you, and it's gonna work. I can assure you that it's gonna work. I'm gonna go ahead and fix it to delete the custom function, or maybe probably go to the Bliss plan, which is this plan, and watch it work. I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you. Hi, welcome back. So, with regards to the deploying of the user reference, I realized it wasn't going to work because I need to be on the Bliss plan. But our Firestore was deployed successfully. So I hope yours deployed successfully. Let's go to the other stage, to the other part of the course. We're still on database, but I want to show you how authentication works. That's what I want to show you. I want to show you how authentication works, and then we'll go ahead and set up a couple of database structure for our application. So let's go back to our page. So this is our page. Okay, so we're going to add a new page. For this, I'm going to use a template to make it really fast, just a bare-bone template, because I think we've gone through this before. I'm going to use a bare-bone template of a login and a sign up. So I'm going to use my team and I'm going to call it login right there. I'm going to add another template. Scroll down all the way, and I'm going to scroll down. Then I'm going to call this sign up. So this is just to figure out that the authentication is working, that you've set up, and everything is working on well. So this is my email, and this is the password. I'm going to say login. Click on the action. Later we're going to deal about action, but just follow through here, and then when we get to the part where we get to explain data relationship in our application in action, I'm going to show you how that works especially. So let's go ahead. I'm going to say Firebase. I'm going to say login. Yeah, Firebase authentication, and this time it's going to be login, sign up. So I'm going to say create account, and the provider is going to be an email. And then for the feed, I'm going to say test feed 1, and password is going to be the second feed. So once you're done with that, you just check this box, simply say create a user collection, create a collection, and this is going to be the user. The user, and we're not adding any of the things. So we're not adding the username, we're not adding any of the thing. But if you click on it, you'll be able to find all the base features, all the database feeds, but we're not doing that. But we're just going to create the user document, and that's all we'll do, and leave it that way. Nothing else, nothing missing, and that's it. So when we're done with logging in, this is sign up. When we're done with signing up, what do we want to do? We want to, after this, we want to navigate to somewhere else. So we're going to add an action. We're going to say navigate to the home page, and that's it. Then we're going to go for the login, and here we're going to go for the login, and then do the same thing. We're going to have login here, password, and then we would click on it. So after logging in, what we want to do, we will navigate to the home page, and that's all we'll do. So I think we have okay, I think we had something over here. So let's just click on login, click on the user. Then let's not create user, because we're not asking for a whole lot of database from the user. So when we're done with that, we're going to let's just come to this onboarding, click on this exchange, and when this exchange is clicked, we want to navigate to the sign up page. Yeah, we want to navigate to the sign up page when the exchange is clicked. I think that's all we have to do, which is go ahead and preview our application. So it's going to take 2 to 3 minutes for your section to be up. But once you test it the first time, it's going to take you have the ability to test for up to 30 minutes. So you can come back to your application here, make changes, you come back to your test mode, you hit refresh, you come back here, you make changes, you just keep on hitting refresh, so that you can keep seeing keep seeing new features that you're creating in real time in your application. So we just wait for this to work. Okay, so it's going to take a few minutes for it to load. The first time it loads really slow, but later it loads really fast. So we have this, and then we'll go ahead and click on our exchange, and this is where we get to put in our email and our password. So I'm just going to say put in the test email at gmail.com, password 9, and then I think we got to the wrong page. We got to the wrong page. We're supposed to be on this page, which is the home page. We're supposed to be on this page, and okay, but I think it's fine. We're supposed to be on a different page entirely. Okay, we're supposed to navigate to home, so which is fine. So if I click on this, we're supposed to navigate to home. Okay, I think that's fine. So that's basically what we want to do. we wanted to do. So that means authentication is working. If you are on your Firestore, you can go ahead and just refresh your Firestore. You should see that a user has been added to your authentication. Don't worry, you won't see it on your cloud store, but you will see it on the authentication part. So you can see our test email, you can see the date created, you can see the time I signed in, and then you can see the user ID. When you get to start seeing things in your Cloud Firestore is if we had created a user. So if we had created a user and then we start adding stuff to our collection, you'll find them here in this part of the database. So that's basically how you do authentication. You can also create something that will enable you to sign in and sign out of the application if you want to. It just makes a whole lot of sense for you to do it that way. So that's some short video on authentication, on fixing your login screen. So after this, when you come back in the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to create some database schema, some database structure for different type of application you might want to build. They're quite related. We're going to just pick a few applications that you're going to be building all the time, and I'll show you how to create database for most of them. I'll see you in the next lesson. Now that you've been able to log in users into and out of your application, it's time for us to create some database types, some database that you can use over and over again. This is going to form the basics of some of the database you create, because you're going to be creating this type of database over and over and over and over again. So this is the user database is likely going to be constant a whole lot of time. So we're going to delete it. I'm going to delete this collection. Just watch me. I'm going to delete most of the collection we have here. And the first type of app we're going to create is a basic application called a to-do list application. Now, to-do list application command, and at the same time, they're very cool. If you want to launch a product into the Play Store, a free good product that you just want to play in the Play Store and see how it works, a to-do list application will be one of the best applications for you to launch, because it solves the problem for a whole lot of people, for a host of people. It does, and it's easy for people to download. It's easy for you to get people to use it, because people always jump from one to-do list application to the other. So I would definitely advise you to create one for yourself. So the first thing we'll do, go ahead and we'll just create a user collection. And we'll just populate it with we'll just say yes, because the user is going to have an email, display name, profile, user ID, created time, and phone number. So a lot of time, okay, let's just take away the phone number, because we're not going to need it. We're not going to need it. A lot of time, this created time is something that you want to add every time to your application. You want to know when the user is created. You want to know when the user had last update. So you could say last update. So when a user last updated their profile, you can always update this feed every time. Every time there's an update, you want to update this particular feed. So the next thing we're going to add is a task collection. We're going to add a task collection, and we just start from scratch. So first, a task is going to have an ID. So we're just going to put an ID here. A task is going to have an ID. This is something that you generate in app. So, and it's going to be called a string. Yeah. Then we'll have a task also have a title. Yeah. A task also have a title, and it's going to be a string, right? Go like that. And it will also have a description, and we will call it a string also, like so. Then also we will have when the task was created at. This is going to be a date time, like so. And then we'll have when the task was updated at. Then we're going to give it a time, like so. Our art is not correct, but I'm just going to leave it that way. Then due date, due art. So this is also going to be a date. daytime. So if you're giving people the chance to choose the color of each task, then we're going to call this a color. So this is going to be the color of this particular task. And there's something else that you might want to do also. You might want to create subtasks, subtasks for a particular task. So you might have one task that have other tasks in between, right? Other tasks in between. So you might have subtasks. You might want to improve it by having categories of tasks. It might be like tasks for school. So let's just put that. So we'll say category. So this is going to be like we'll start with the name of the category. That's going to be a string. Yeah, it's going to be a string right there. And we're going to add an image representing that category image path. So if this category is going to be created by the user, so you're just going to say created by. So you can query all the category created by this particular user whenever you want to use that category in your application. Created by, have a document reference, and that reference is going to be for the user, like so. So we have the name, so we'll say created at, so the time. This is not very important though. This is not very important, except maybe you're going to be sorting this particular category sometimes. So we have the task, we have the category. So sometimes you might want to say you want to add all the tasks, you want to add all the tasks that belongs to a particular category, but there's no need, because this is just going to be something you will pick. And also then here you come back to your task and say category. So that, this means that one task belongs to one category, and a category can have many tasks. You understand? So we're talking about relationship here, one-to-one relationship and many-to-one relationship. So this is going to be a string. It's not going to be a document reference, because you can simply use the category name or the category ID. So you can add an ID here, call it a string, and it's just going to be a category ID that once you see this ID over here, you know the category it belongs to. And then there's another thing you want to do. You want to either two things. You want to either add the creator here, like so, created by here, and you add a reference like this. You add a reference like this and call it you could add a reference and call it the user reference, and you say check. That's one way to do it. Or another thing you can do is to come here as a task like this. Come here and say task. You would call it task. This is going to be all the tasks created by this user. You take document reference to the task and you call it a list. So whenever a user create a task, you add it to this list. Whenever the user create a task, you add it to this list. So yeah, it's a relationship. So when you want to query, you query all the tasks that is inside this list. So you will query every task, but you could get the only one that is inside this particular list. So that's basically how it works. Another way you could actually represent this task is to put it as a subcategory as a sub collection of this user. So if a user is going to be creating a whole lot of tasks, this can just be a sub collection. You don't have to create another collection for this particular user anymore, since I can only see the task that belongs to me. If I can only see task that belongs to me, it's just a single user application. It is not for everybody. I can create this task as a sub collection of the user. For example, I would just duplicate this, call it a sub collection of the user, and just I'll call it task. I'll call it task, add an X to it. So you can make it a sub collection of the user because it is because your app is making sure that a user can only see the task he or she created only. And once we do that, we will delete this one to say created by. We don't need to have an owner anymore, because the user here is the owner. So you see the way it works. That's the way you would create a to-do list, a to-do list database. So next, we're going to see how to create a social media database. You would see that it's easier than you think. It is not as complicated as you think it is. Go ahead and implement this for yourself and join me in the next lesson. Thank you. Welcome back. This time we're going to create a database for a social media application, some sort of an Instagram-like application. So you know that almost every social media application looks like Instagram these days. Twitter looks like Instagram, Facebook looks like Instagram, everything look alike, LinkedIn, everything look alike. So this what we're going to structure right now is going to form a basics for almost any social media application that you're going to create. It doesn't matter if it's Tinder, you're swiping left and you're swiping right. Tinder is going to be more about the swipe, which is the user. So you're going to give more attention to the user most of the time when you're creating something on Tinder. So the first thing we want to create is we have some bare bone email, we have the display name, the photo URL, we have the user ID, we have the created time, we have the last updated. Then we will just add something. We'll add the profile picture. We have the profile picture, and we'll call this an image. Yeah, if you have a video cover, if you have some sort of a video cover, like some social media would do this, so we can just call it a video path, like that. And so you can see that in all that I'm doing, I'm not adding password because that is taken care of by Firebase itself. So you can see the user password, you can't do anything about it, and it's so cool. So the next thing we want to do is to add a post collection. So you know that users are able to create posts. Yeah, users are able to create posts, and we're just going to start from scratch here. So first, we'll add an ID for a post, some sort of a unique ID for our post, and this is going to be a string. And then we'll add a user ID. We'll add a user ID for the owner of the post. So here, you can either use the user ID or you can use the creator. So both of these two things are unique. Yeah, both of these two things are unique. You can use the user ID or you can use the person who created the post itself. So for the user ID, I'm going to say string. So this works that every time you create a post, you store the person's user ID on this post. Similar. So we have the image URL, and then we also have the video URL, and this is going to be a video path. Then we'll also have the time it was created art is going to be, pretty sure you guessed that right. Then we're going to have likes. So we're going to have likes. So this is going to be users who have liked the post, and it's going to be a document reference, right? It's going to be a document reference to the users who have liked the post. So this could be a list of string also where you have all the IDs. It can also be a list of document reference. So we're going to call this a list, right? These are a number of persons who have liked the post. So we're going to add another one called dislike, and we're going to do the same thing. It's going to be a reference, and it's going to be a list, it's going to be a user, and that's how it's going to be. So now we have, the next thing we're going to have is we're going to add comments, but we're not going to add comments here. We're going to add those comments in the, we're going to add those comments as a sub collection of the post. So a post might have a whole lot, might have a time that it's updated. So for some social media, you're permitted to update your post, but for a lot of them like Twitter, you're not permitted to update it. You're just permitted to delete it only. So we're going to add something else. We're going to add another collection, and this collection is going to be the comment collection, comments, and it's going to be a sub collection. It's going to be under the post. That's what it's going to be. Then a comment. For comments, we're going to have the user ID, the user who made the comment, and it's going to be the string. It's going to be a string. And then for we're going to have, we know the post already, so there's no need for the post ID. So we're going to add the test. So this is the comment itself, and it's going to be a string. And then lastly, we're going to add the time it was created art to be the time. date and time. So this is the backbone of a backbone of an app that you can use for your messaging, your post, and your social media application. And so there are other things you might want to use to spice this up, and you can add messaging to it. So we can add messages, and we'll just call it its own collection. We'll start from scratch, and the message will have an ID. So you can see everything have an ID. It's not so necessary that you add them, or when you're creating relationship, that's the reason why we're adding this, but it's not very necessary that you add them. So then we'll add the user ID, the person who owned the message. Here is going to be a string. The person who owned the message, which is always going to be the current user that is logged in. Then we'll also add the conversation ID. This can be an ID or a reference. So this can be an ID to a conversation, or it can be a reference to a conversation. And then we'll have the text that you're sending at that point in time. And lastly, we'll have the time it was created. Created at is going to be a date and time feed. Yes, and then we'll add a conversation. That's the next thing. We'll add conversations, and it's going to be something very similar. So a conversation will have an ID, which you're going to have relationship with the message. So remember, a message will have tons of conversation, right? Or a conversation. It just depends on how you want to specify the relationship. So a conversation will have messages going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So if I send a message to a conversation, the other person will send a message to the conversation. So ID is going to be a string, and then we'll have participants. Participant, this is going to be an array of either users or an array of IDs that is taking part in that conversation. So it could be an array of user reference, an array of users, like maybe the 2 users who are taking part in the conversation, or it could be an array of it could be a list, a list of what? A list of string or a list of IDs that's taking place part of that conversation. So we're going to call it a list of user. It's fine. It depends on what works for you in your internal database relationship. Then we're going to have when this conversation was created at. So this is when the conversation was created, and this is when the conversation was last updated. Last updated. So if you look at it in your conversation most time on WhatsApp, it's structured based on when it was last updated. The newly updated conversations is on top, while as you go down it keeps going down. But for the messages too, you will see that the time the message was created, the last message that is closer to the current time is always on top. It's always on top, while other messages are most time below. So this is how you would structure your messaging application. Almost every messaging application have this as the basics. Then you can then keep adding a whole lot more, like deleted user, disliked user. So you can have users you disliked, list of users you like, list of users you disliked, list of users you don't want to follow. Like you said, if you add a user, you don't want to follow a user, it could be like the no follow, and then this would be user reference. Yeah, this would be user reference, and then it would be, and it's going to be a list. So this is going to be a list of users that you don't want to follow. So it's not going to recommend you any of these persons in your timeline when you decide not to follow any of these persons again. So that's the basics of your social media application. So now we're good with this. I'm going to show you a real estate application, how to design a database for a real estate application. Next, I'll see you in the next lesson. Welcome back. At this time, we're going to create an e-commerce database setup. It is no different from what you've seen before. especially if you know how to create the one for social media or you know how to create the one for the to-do list. It's all about creating relationship. It's just that at this time, in an e-commerce store, things get to move from one point to another. You can do it the easy way or you can do it the complex way. The easy way is using local state to make all your calculations, but the hard way or the complex way is to put everything in your database and clean everything after when your user checkout. Just imagine you're shopping on, I'm going to open a popular shopping website here in Nigeria. It's called Jumia. So I'm going to open it so you see how work. I'm pretty sure you've shopped before. So you register, which is the normal thing to create a user account, and then you scroll down to find a product you like. So I'm going to scroll down. Probably I like this shirt. So I'm going to probably I like this shirt. So if I like this shirt, it's going to tell me to add it to cart. And here you can see that this shirt has properties and it has like some variations like the extra large, SS large, and it has a location. It says add to cart and it's going to ask me how many. So this is the point. What this shirt is displaying is just the product details. And as you can see, these are images. It contains 1, 2, 3, lots of images, up to 5 images. These images are stored in an image array. That's where it starts. In Firebase, you're going to call that a list, or in Flutterflow, you're going to call it a list, but it's called an array because you can add so many images inside of it. And then you have the name of the shirt. You have the rating. So rating is a different collection entirely. You have the add to cart. So once you click on the add to cart, it creates a cart item or it creates an order item or a cart item or anything you want to call it. Just create that. So here you are able to specify the number of products you want. You're able to specify the number of products you want, and then you proceed to checkout. So you specifying the number of products you want. When I mean the complex way earlier is that you can actually update the collection as you do this, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's a whole nice thing for you to create a local state that takes the number of products in cart and update it all the time. It's super fast. It's super easy for you to fix. And then you come here and you say checkout. So when you read your cart, you would see that this guy automatically calculates how much you have to pay. It will automatically calculate, see your cart summary, it should automatically calculate how much you're going to pay when you keep adding like the plus, when you keep hitting the plus signs. You can see the subtotal here, it's calculating the subtotal when you hit the plus sign. So these are items in cart. So you say, how many carts do you have? 4. How many other items do you have in a cart? It's 4 items inside a single cart, and they all have products. Do you understand, right? It's displaying this first order item. This one is displaying the second order item. So the reason why you're creating order item, why you're creating cart, why you're creating, because it's different. I can be shopping here and somebody else is shopping at the same time somewhere else, and we're all adding different items in cart. So because things are different for different users, that's the reason why you have to create a cart alongside. Think of when you go shop in your local store. It's the same thing. You get to take a bread, maybe like 4 pieces of bread, put it inside your cart. You get to take like maybe 10 bottles of wine, put it inside your cart. So this is a different order, different item, different quantity, and different order. I hope you understand that. So let's go back. So I want to show you something else I created. It's a schema I created with Figma. So this is the dark theme. I hope you see it this way. I would have changed it to light theme, but this is just what I put out. So you can see when you're creating the one for the schema for a database for an e-commerce store, this is what you do it. So we have the user, just like every other database, and then we have the product. So you can see here So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, take the hand tool. So you can see here our product have an ID, name, description, when it was created, the price, the modified date, the on sale, the sales price, the image is a list, then the product ID and the user who created the product. So the reason why you're adding a user is if it's a marketplace. If it's a marketplace, it means it was created by somebody, not you. But if it's not a marketplace, you don't have to add the user to it. And then we have the cart, just same thing that we saw earlier. We have the cart and we have like items in the cart, the name of the item, the price of the item, the quantity the person wants to buy, the total price, the time it was created, the ref and the product ID. So this is where you get to like split things in two. Here, you can do it two ways. You can either decide to create an order item before the cart, where the other item will be the same, will be same thing like this, will be same thing like this, but the cart will then contain multiple other items. Or you can just go straight away and create cart items. So this is going to be a list of array. So every time a user decide to buy a product, you create a new cart. Every time the user decides to buy a product, you create a new cart. So the reason why is because of the reason why you're creating a new cart, you're not going straight away from product all the way to checkout, is because of this thing here called a quantity. If you're building a store where a user can only choose one item, one item, so you don't have to create a cart. You don't have to create all of this other item and all that. You just go from item to checkout. If it's just a single item users can buy. So once they click on that item, they say buy, you just go all the way to checkout. That's all. But if a user is buying multiple items, then they must load everything into the cart first before creating the order. So once they're satisfied with the cart, they go ahead and they create the order, which is the cart ID, the total price, the time it was created, the time it was modified, if there's a shipping, if it's going to be shipped or not, if there's going to be tasks, if there's going to be, these are the list of products in that particular order item. And then you also have the platform fee, and then you have the user who owned the product. So it really depends, right? It really depends on how you set up your marketplace. So if it's just a single e-commerce store, you don't need any of the user thing. But if it's going to be if it's a marketplace, then you need the user. And also, if it's a marketplace, if multiple users have multiple products, multiple users have multiple products, and your customers in your marketplace can select different products from different users, then this is going to be the way it's modeled like this is going to be a bit different. It's going to be a bit different because you have to pin each order in item in the cart with the user. So when a person checks out, you have to send a message to all the persons that created that own product in your marketplace to say, hey, somebody ordered item A, somebody ordered item B, somebody ordered item C. So, but this is the basics. You have products are added to cart, and those carts turn into orders. So I thought I would just leave it here. I don't think it's so difficult to create. Okay, let's go ahead and create this. Let's just go ahead and create this since I promised to create this. And then we also have this. We created this before, the address, and then our address have a country, have a state, has a country, has a street, house number, shipping address, zip code. The reason why zip code is a string is because some country can add alphabet to their zip code. For in Nigeria, where I stay, zip code is an integer, so it's always like 551, 446, 2050. So it's an integer. But I've seen in the US where zip code is sometimes add like P155, stuff like that as zip code. So let's just quickly go ahead to let's quickly go to Flutterflow and create this database as fast as possible. Okay, we already have the user set up. I'm going to rush through this and then we're going to have the product setup, and then we're going to have the ID of the product, which is going to be a string. We'll have the name. It's going to be a string. We have the description. Then price, which is going to be a double. So the reason I told you before, the reason why the price it's a double is because people can put point. So you can have like 0.15, 0.84, 0.85. That's the reason why the price is a double, because people can use point in your application. So we have the time it was created, and this is going to be a timestamp. Yeah, this is going to be a date, a timestamp. We have the time it was modified. If the product is modified, is also a timestamp also. Then we also have the on sale, if this product is still on sale. So it's going to be a Boolean. Yes, it's going to be a Boolean. And then we also have the sales price. So for some platform, sales price and price is different majority of the time. It's just to show a user that you're making a slash. So sometimes it's an illusion, sometimes it's a great way to get people to buy from you. So this is going to be a list of images. It's going to be an array, because we want a user to be able to add multiple product image to the image section of things. So if your product is going to have a video, so you can put a video in there. If it's going to have a video, I've seen this in Amazon, where a product going to have a video, a recorded video showing how the product is used, and how to get started with the product. So that's the product page, and then we'll go ahead and set up the cart page. So this cart page here, you can also do it as a local state. It doesn't have to be the cart. It doesn't have to be in the database. You can also do this as a local state right there. So it doesn't have to be a cart thing. And also, you can also do it as a data type. So you could say, we could add a data type called a cart. So we have the ID, it's going to be a string. Then we also have the name, a string also. And then we have the price. So this is going to work if you are creating single carts. You're creating single, every time the user decides to buy a product, you create a new cart. Every time a user decides to buy a product, you create a new cart. So we also have quantity. And that is going to be an integer. And then we also have the total price. We have the total price, and it's going to be a double. Then we have the created art. So when this stuff was created, when this cart was created, it's going to be a date time. Then we have the product ID. So the particular product that we are adding to the cart. So this is the cart now, and then we'll go back to our product. Take this away, just delete this. There's no need to have this, because we're also going to create an order. An order is going to be, we're also going to create an order, and an order is going to be a summary of all the products. It's going to be a summary of all the products. Yeah, all the products were created. So there's no need for you to have a product to have cart also. So we're just going to create an order. Yeah, we're going to create an order and say create. Start from scratch. Then it's going to be the cart ID, cart IDs, and this is going to be a string, and this is going to be a list. Or we can make it a data type, and it's going to be called a cart, and it's going to be a list. So an order is going to have a lot of carts. So it's going to be, yeah, that's it. Then we have the total price of this order, total price of the order, total price is going to be a double. And then we have also the time it was created, when it was created, and this is going to be a date time, added, shipping. So this is going to be a yes, shipping was added. And then we also have tax, how much of tax the person paid. This is going to be a double. And then we have the platform fee. If there's going to be platform fee, then that's going to be a double. So that's basically it. We don't have to add a list of products. You don't have to add a list of products, but if you want to, you could do it to simplify the whole thing. But you really don't have to add a whole list of product, or it could be like product IDs if you want to, but it's not very necessary for you to add all this to the order. So product ID is just a list of product that was added to the cart over here. But since you have the cart here, you have the cart here, there's no need for you to add the product ID at all. So that's the way you create it. And then another thing you want to do is that you want to go to this app state and then just create a cart. Just create a cart, call it a data type, and call it a cart. Like so, and make it persistent so it can be stored on the screen so that users can come back and pick up from where they started. So you can see we have the ID, the name, the price, the quantity, the time it was created, and the product ID. So every time a user adds something to add something to decide to buy an item, you add it to cart. Every time the user decides to buy an item, you add it to cart. Every time the user decides to buy an item, you add it to cart. This cart is going to be a local state. It's going to be stored in your user's phone, and once they're done, you turn it into an order. Once they click on checkout, you create a new order. The order is going to be the list of the cart, and then what you do is that you add all the sum. You sum all the total of that particular cart to get the total order. You get all the sum, and the total price here. The total price here will be the way you calculate data price, which we're going to do later in the future. The total price is going to be the sum total of all the product in the cart. Yeah, the sum total of all the total price in the cart. So like, let's go back to the cart. So you see, we have this is the cart here. We have the total price. So the sum total of all the total price in the cart plus the platform fee plus the tax, then that is going to give you the total price of this order. You get it, right? So that's basically how it is. Go ahead and set up your own cart database. I'll see you in the next lesson where we get to set. We still have 2 more databases to set. We're going to set a real estate database and also a SaaS database. The reason why I'm setting all these databases because these are some of the things that you'll be building a whole lot with Flutterflow. Lots of people get to build this with Flutterflow. So if you want to start, I just want to show you the basics on how to set up these databases. And don't forget, if you have questions, leave it in the comment section and I'll do well to answer you. Irrespective of where you're watching this course, there's going to be a comment section down below, or you can shoot me an email and I'll do well to answer you. I'll see you in the next lesson. Together, we're going to create this real estate setup. If you've noticed, most real estate websites that you ever go to, they're very, very similar. Most times they show you a list of properties. You click on it and then you pick those properties, and you call those persons who own these properties. And this type of apps can be divided into 2. One, there could be a real estate marketplace. A real estate marketplace is almost no different. It has similarities with an e-commerce marketplace. So some maybe maybe real estate marketplace where you have vendors and you have people come around and list those properties. While others could be a single platform where you are the one who's adding the property as an agent, and you just go there and you put in all the properties you have that you intend to list, right? So you will do this in two ways. You'll do this. We're going to delete. We're going to delete this, delete the other. So for the user, we don't have to do anything about the user. It's okay and it's fine the way it is. So we'll click here and we'll add properties. We'll add properties and we'll start from scratch. So same type of database. So we have the name, we have the name of the property, we have the address, and this is going to be data type address, right? Like so. Then we also have images of the property. This is going to be an image part and it's going to be a list. And then we have video of the property. This is going to be a video part and it's going to be a list, because most real estate platforms give you a chance to add multiple videos of your properties to their platform. And then we have that. Then we're going to have some amenities. Yeah, we're going to have some specifications, and this is going to be a string, right? This is going to be a string, these specifications, or we can go ahead and create a data type that is called specifications, right? We can go back here now, come here, create a data type, add a data type, and just call it specifications. And this is going to have things like the size, and size is going to be a double. Then we're going to have things like the furnished, if it's been furnished. It's going to be a Boolean, yes or no, and a whole lot more. And then we'll come back here and then we'll come back to the properties. We'll say specifications. It's going to be a data type, and then we'll choose specifications and say OK. So once the user chooses specification, they will need to add properties of the house, or what's in the house, or property type. So this is going to be like property type. So meanwhile, this type of stuff is going to be an option. It's going to be an option for the user. Property type is going to be a string. We have the description, it's going to be a string. And then we have the price. It's going to be a double. Yeah. So now we have the name, we have the address, we have the image, the video, specification, property type, description, price. You can have lots of other feed in there that you intend to add to this, right? And then if this is a single application where you're listing these properties, this is almost enough for you to get started, right? This is almost enough for you to get started, because you can basically sort with address, you can sort with specifications, you can sort with the property type, this is almost enough. And then you would add some sort of a phone number. You can add a phone number here, or it could be a general phone number. Yeah, it could be a general phone number for yourself. And then another thing that you want to do, if you are running this as a company, you want to add a collection called agents. Yeah, you want to add a collection called agents. For agents, they're going to have a name. Yeah, they're going to have a name. String. Yeah, you're going to have all those stuff like name, info and all that stuff. And they're going to have assigned properties. So these are like properties attached to them. This is going to be a list. It's going to be a document reference. It's going to be a list of properties, each list like this. So this is going to be a list of properties assigned to the agent. So the reason why you have a list of agents It's so that it's so that whenever the users in to find these properties want to connect with somebody, they will just connect with a particular agent that is assigned to these properties. So it basically, I'm just showing you the things if you're doing it on your own. If you're doing it on your own, or it's an open market where everybody can come around and list properties for themselves. So this agent will have a phone number. Yeah, will have a phone number like so, and then it's going to be a string data type. They should have an email like so, and this is going to be a data type. This is going to be a string data type. So when you're creating in the back end, you get to either add them to the list. Yeah, you get to add the agent to the list. You get to add properties to the list, to this list over here, and then it reflects. Then you go back to the properties and you say the agent that this property belongs to. You click here, it's going to be a document ref, and then it's going to be an agent. So the reason why you're doing this is so that you can call the agent details. So that you can call these agent details whenever you're listing these particular properties. So you understand. So this properties is going to be called, yeah, you could call it listing if you want to. It's fine. So we have name, we have this, we have all that. Then instead of you to have an agent here, you're going to take this away. Then you're going to have something like created by. Then it's going to be a document reference to the user like this. So then you're going to come to the user. You're going to add properties of this user. You're going to be document reference. It's going to be a property, and it's going to be a list like this. So this is going to contain all the list of properties that this user have. And then when you come back here, you're going to see all the properties that have been created by a particular user. So this user is going to be paying for maybe a month, maybe a week. It depends on how you want them to pay. But you can go ahead and set up a cart, and then you can set up something that says pay is paid, probably subscription status. So this is going to be the status of the subscription. It's going to be like the string, is it paying or not? And then you put it. So if it's paying, you want to allow them to list maybe like 2 properties, maybe like 10 properties. If it's not paying, you want to allow them to list like probably 1 properties. It just really depends on how you want to do it. But this is basically how you set up a property listing application. Very basic one, something that you can use, get started with, and then you can change as you get feedback from your people you're building it for. So that's it. We have just one to go, and that's a SaaS. How do you set up a SaaS application database? Just one more, and then we'll round up this particular part of setting up database scammers. I'll see you in the next lesson. This is our last lesson for creating database setup. So I thought I should close it up with SaaS. This is Trello. What you're seeing on the screen right now is Trello. Trello is one of my favorite tools when it comes to, getting more productive. So you get to see my brain dump, what I brainstorm, the stuff I'm going to create, my to-dos, what I'm doing, and what's done. And funny enough, you could build something like this on Flutterflow if you want to. So, but one thing that you'll notice that Trello has this thing that tells you to pay when you hit a particular threshold. So when I go to my settings, if I go to my settings, it has a plan that will tell you, hey, what plan you are, card, it shows me all this stuff and tells me, hey, Paul, you have to pay now that you've hit a threshold. So we're going to create a Trello bot database, and I'm going to show you how this works. And also you can see that I have members. My board has members. I can invite new members into my board if I want to. So I'm going to go here, And for the users, don't worry, you don't have to touch it because we already have the subscription status. That's the only thing we need to know if our users are subscribed or not. So the first thing we'll do, we're just going to create like a plus sign and call this bots, because you know Trello we have bots in Trello, right? So we're gonna do that first, and we're gonna give it our ID. Our bot is gonna have an ID, and then we're going to have the name of the board, which is gonna be a string, and then we will have the description of the board, which is also going to be a string, and then we will have the time the board was created at, which is going to be a date time, and then we will have the time the board was updated. If you look at everything we've been created, you basically see here there are common feeds that are common to every database that we always create. And then we have the list. So this is going to be a list of this is going to be a list of board. It's going to be a list, like when you come here, you could basically see we have boards. We have these boards over here. These are boards, and then when we click inside the board, like if I click inside my workspace, we can see this list. We have the brain dump list, we have the brainstorm list, we have the to do, we have the doing. These are all lists. So that's what we're going to create now. So we have list, and for our list 2, we're going to have ID. It's going to be a string. Then we're going to have board. So this is going to be which board is actually the list. Does this list belong to? We're just going to give it a reference to the board, and then it's going to have a name. Name is going to be a string. Then it's going to have a position. Position is going to be an integer. So when I mean position, if you come back here to this Trello board, you basically see we have, this is position 1, this is 2, 3, 5, 6. So if I take this here, this is going to be like the position 1. So everything is arranged based on the position. So as you move things around, you're basically changing the position of the database. That's what you're doing. And then thing, which is the created art, updated art, we have all that. And then we'll have the last collection, which is called a feed, Yeah, that's a feed. And the feed will have the ID. We'll have the ID, which is a string, and then this will have the list that this feed belong to. So this is going to be a list of to-do inside a list, right? I'm going to explain this. So this is going to be document reference. It's going to be the list that is. So when we see this, you see this is a list, and these are sub lists inside of it. So these are like sub tasks inside of it. For example, like build a bubble SaaS course for me is a list inside this particular list, right? So we have a board that has a list and have a list of items inside of it. That's what it is. And then this has a name. Name is a string, and then this has a description, and then it has a due date. So since this is a task, it needs to expire. If it doesn't expire, it's not going to be a task. So this is the way it's going to be, right? This is the way it's going to be. And then we have something called, we have another collection called the team collection. So we have the team name, we have the team name string, we have the team ID, which is also a string, and then we have team members, which is a list of users, which is going to be a list of users. Is list, yes. Then we have the created by a user. Created by the user. So this is basically if you think that multiple persons should work on a Trello board. Like if you come to Trello, you would see the team section of it. You would see that I can add a whole lot of people to my members. You can see members of this team. I can just simply click the plus sign and I can invite somebody into the workspace. So when I invite somebody into this workspace, the person joins my team. So I can create as many teams as possible. I can add as many members as possible. So that's basically the way you create it. Then all other things would then be like the subscription status. Then we'll have the plan the person belongs to. So if the plan is like this, so this would be a string. So if this person belongs to this plan, this person can add a team. So all the things that you're going to be doing is going to be a whole lot of if statement, if statement all around the place. If this person is like this, I want to do this. If this person is like this, I really want to do this. So that's basically the way you set this up. So this is just the beginning. You can set up more complex database structure for yourself if you want to, but I just thought I should run you through all this so that you basically understand how these work. So I'm going to introduce Superbase and Xano to you in the next lesson, and then we will keep going on the course. I'm not going to really take a deep dive into Superbase and Xano right now. We're going to do that. We're going to do that later in the course, because I think it's also better that you learn how to pass data from one screen to another in Flutterflow, so you can go ahead and build your app in record time while I complete the other lesson. I'll see you in the next lesson then. Hi, welcome to this part of the course. I'm going to tell you about Superbase and other Firebase alternatives that you can use for your application. So I'm going to open the Airtable URL for you and then go back. So if you go to your settings, see Superbase and Firebase. So Superbase, as at the moment of recording this video, comes shipped with Flutterflow. So that means you can authenticate your users using Superbase, and you can do the same using Firebase. Sometimes something you might be asking yourself, exactly why do I have to use another alternative? So a lot of time, even though Firebase is very good, it is real-time, it is super cool, it is as fast as possible, it is fast, it is very affordable. Some persons like to have consistency in their data. That means if I pull out 20,000 data from my database, I want everything to be consistent and the same. I want the relationship and everything there to be the same. But for Firebase, it's a bit different. You might not see real consistency with all the data you have in your database. And also another thing that people worry about when they want to use Firebase is security. Security is a big thing for a lot of people. When you're using NoSQL database like Superbase, you are able to secure everything right off the bat with unique keys, primary keys, and on. But when you're using Firebase, everything can access everything. Everything can access everything. So it's a bit difficult for you to have that security consistency when you're using Firebase. When you're using Firebase to build your application. And another thing is called vendor lock-in. So that means it's difficult for you to transfer one NoSQL database to another NoSQL database. It's difficult sometimes. You will need to require other tools for you to do that same thing. Say, for example, there are a couple of NoSQL database that's available in the market. You have MongoDB, you have Cassandra, you have HBase, you have Neo4j. It might be difficult for you to transfer your database between all of these platforms. There are tools that you can use to do so, but right off the bat, it might be a bit difficult for you to do that same thing. But I know I spoke about security, which we're going to talk about later in this course. But if we go back to our database on our settings right here, you would see Firebase has some rules. You would see Firebase rules. You would see delete user reference and the rest. You would see that you can actually secure some of your data over here. You can say what people can see what they can write, what they can read, and what they can delete via your application. We're going to talk about this as we go in this course. So let me show you around Firebase. So this is not Firebase. Let me show you around Superbase. This is Superbase, a backend as a service. It prides itself as a Firebase alternative for building applications that are very, very secure. And it works with a whole lot of framework, real-time, a lot of framework, and it's just to build here if you're looking for a Firebase alternative. So, though I'm not going to explore this now, but I'm just telling you that it's an alternative to using Firebase to build your application. And also, we also have Xano. Xano, it's really scalable. It doesn't come right off the bat with Firebase, right off the bat with Flutterflow, but there's a very huge chance that you can use it to build your application as much as you want to. Why? Because Xano provides you with ready-made API that you can use to update, delete data from the database on Xano. You can almost do everything you can do on Firebase with Xano if you just know how to use API. Don't worry, that's something we're going to cover in this course. And also, there is another alternative right here. It is called Airtable. Right? You might wonder, why on earth do I want to use Airtable? If you're doing something if you're looking for a very affordable platform, you're looking for something that you want to have full control over, then Airtable is your guy. Airtable can almost do everything you could do on Xano and Superbase. The only thing it doesn't have are those backend infrastructure where you want to write custom functions and the rest. But Airtable is almost like Excel on steroids. You can do so many things. You can do complex calculations, complex filterings simply by using Airtable as your database. This means that your cost will be very low, as Airtable charges is very, very low. You can create unlimited database, unlimited relationship, and a whole lot more when you're building with Airtable. For those persons who, if you're watching this course and you're thinking of building things like recipes, and you're thinking of building directories, you're thinking of building directories, you're thinking of building blogs, anything that people just get to browse through, then I will definitely advise you to go with Airtable. Simply register, create your table here. Just like you will see this table, you create your table here and then you grab the API. Once you grab the API, you'll be able to insert, you'll be able to delete, you'll be able to create, and you'll be able to change anything you want to change on this database. Funny as it may sound, you could almost use Airtable to create an e-learning application. Really, you could use Airtable to create an application, just like what I'm doing here. This is the database for an e-learning application where you come around and learn some no-code tools. That's what this is, and I'm using Airtable to power the back end of the application. So that's something you want to take a look at. There are other alternatives in the market, but these are my 3 favorites. And if I'm going to cover any of this, I'm going to start from these 3: Superbase, Xano, and Airtable. So that's it. I think we're done with the beginners aspect of the database. Probably soon later in the course we will talk about the Superbase, Xano if we have the time. Because of course I'm going to be improving and over again. So we keep talking as we get something new, as we learn something new, we will get to update the course as fast as possible. I know this is the time where you want to transfer data from one screen to another. You want to understand how. That's what we're going to be learning next in this course. We're going to be learning how to query data, how to transfer data from one screen to another, custom dialog boxes, custom model, transferring actions from one screen to another. That's what we're going to be learning in the next lesson. I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you so much for watching again. Hey, welcome back. Thank you very much for watching this course on how to set up database in Flutterflow. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed every bit of it, and I'm so sure that now that you've completed the course, you are able to set up different type of database. You understand data type, you understand how to set up Firebase, and you know a thing or two about Xano and Superbase. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I have a whole lot for you if you click on the link below. And you know what's more? I'm offering you the early bird pricing if you decide to click on the link and purchase today. Price is going up fast. Just click on the link so you can start learning how to build mobile applications with Flutterflow. And you know what's more? This course, I'm going to keep updating it weekly. So as I get to learn new things by working with clients, by building personal projects with Flutterflow, I get to update the course and teach you how to do the same. And also there's a community right there where you can communicate with me, you can ask questions, and also you can communicate with other persons who are building cool projects with Flutterflow. I can't wait to see you on the course. Click on the link below to get started. Thank you once again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.